helmet law support rallies. There's only one name that seems to come to mind. We've tried to get him here before, and I think everyone sitting here owes this guy a whole bunch of gratitude because he's the one that started it all here in South Carolina. It's my privilege, ABATE of South Carolina's privilege, to introduce the founder of ABATE of South Carolina. He's going to speak to us for a few minutes, Mr. Jesse McDugald. Jesse?
I'd like to welcome everybody to the 24th annual Helmet Law Support Rally to show our support for South Carolina's current mandatory helmet law and try to get the cops to actually enforce it. If you think about that, 24 years of having a helmet law support rally is just mind-boggling. And when you think about the fact that we have, since 1980, have avoided arresting adults for minding their own business, that's a long time. If anybody wants to do the math, they'll figure out that since 1980, it's been how many years? Can't do the math, huh? Okay, I guess that comes from me being a former school teacher. That's 28 years. 28 years. Okay, 1966, highway bill passes the federal Congress, which basically gave the Department of Transportation the opportunity to blackmail the states if they didn't pass a number of regulations, including the helmet law. There were things on motorcycle education and a bunch of other stuff, but they only focused in on one, and that was the helmet law. And the thing is that if you ever study history and read about James Madison, you'll know that he talked about that the biggest question always has been in our government between liberty and power. And when the Highway Department, through the Department of Transportation, blackmailed the states, they basically wanted to eliminate our liberty and so they could take on more power. And if you think about it, there was no group in the 60s that was eligible to be stomped on but the bikers. One, we weren't vocal. Two, we were technically a minority. And three, the one minority that we used to get on was no longer a minority, and they were definitely being heard in the 60s. So that left us. So they came to South Carolina in 1966 along with the other 49 states and said, listen, you got to pass a helmet law or you're going to lose money. If you don't do this, we're going to take away your money. Like it was their money to begin with. It wasn't. It was our money, but they were going to keep us from getting it. And so the state of South Carolina in 1967, because it was too late in 66, passed a helmet law. It took effect on July 1st, 1967. But being South Carolinians, we're not much on having the feds jump in our case. And so if you ever look at our helmet law, you'll see that it doesn't say anything about motorcycles. It originally stated, it shall be unlawful for any person to operate or ride upon a two-wheeled motorized vehicle unless he wears a helmet of a type that is approved by the Highway Department, yada, 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 yada. And the only definition that meets the definition, or the only vehicle that meets the definition of a two-wheeled motorized vehicle is a moped. Because technically, motorcycles are motor vehicles. We're not motorized vehicles. If we were motorized vehicles, we wouldn't be allowed on the interstates and other things. We're a motor vehicle. But it was never enforced. And people really didn't give a hoot one way or another back in the 60s. And those people riding trikes and had sidecars, they weren't bothered by it anyway because they weren't on a two-wheeled motorized vehicle. And I'll get to something about that, something a friend of mine, Ricky Moore, and I did. We took a wheel, stuck it on the side of our motorcycle, and now we had a three-wheeled motorized vehicle. And it was fun getting stopped by the cops for that and doing all this stuff. Now, law passes 1967, July the 1st. They do warning tickets for a year. Now we used to do things for a year, give you a window of a year. Now they only do it for 6 months. So on July 1st, 1968, everybody started getting actual tickets. The bikers of South Carolina, we didn't do nothing. We kind of sat around and then took it up the kazoo. Good thing they had KY Jelly at the time. 1971, Lou Kimsey and the people at Easy Riders magazine got real sick and tired of this crap. They said, you know, we got to do something about it. We got to help the motorcyclists get, the bikers get organized. And so they founded ABATE, a national organization that was loosely knit, sort of a coalition of people throughout the country. I joined ABATE nationally in 1972. I still have my card. Signed by Lou Kimsey. April of 1972. It acts as a reminder because your mind is one of the first things to go when you get up in years. Being 60 years old, sometimes you forget when you did things, and I had trouble on a lot of this stuff today. But I still have my card That's how important it was to me to know that I was starting to do something. That was an important first step. And it was funny because they came out of California, and the only state that didn't pass a helmet law was California, because Ronald Reagan was governor. And when the feds came to him and said, listen, we're going to take away your money if you don't pass a helmet law, Ronald Reagan said, oh, stick it where the sun don't shine. You want to do that? You're going to try to keep our money away from us? Then you collect the gas taxes at all these gas stations, because the state of California ain't going to do it anymore. You can try to figure out a way to collect those taxes. And now we're talking like big money. And the feds backed down. They backed down because the hammer they tried to use was too small to deal with Ronald Reagan. And that's the only state that didn't capitulate. Now they have a helmet law now because the federal blackmail's not there, and there's a whole other story behind that. 1975, there were enough bikers throughout the state that were sick and tired of trying to deal with this stupid hat law. So I took it upon myself to get started with ABATE of South Carolina. Ironically, at the same time, there were people in the Low Country that started the Motorcycle Rights Association. We didn't know each other existed. We did meet, and we did pull our forces together and said, listen, we're all working for the same thing. 1976, our bicentennial year, 200 years for the Declaration of Independence, and we're still wearing hats. Forced to. We're going to get arrested for not wearing a hat. It's absurd. We have our first helmet law repeal bill sponsored in the House of Representatives. We have our first helmet law protest in April 1976. It was a trip. But we were getting started. We had our second helmet law protest in October of 1976. This one was a bit different than the first one. The first one we had a police escort and a parade permit. In October we said, out of hell with that stuff, we don't want to bother. So we left and rode into town, stopping at all the lights, nobody wearing hats. The Columbia police were freaked out. I don't know of anybody that got a ticket. They just didn't know, they didn't know what to do with hundreds of people riding motorcycles not wearing hats. We got another parade permit for December 1976. Ironically, in December of 1776, Tom Paine wrote his famous thing that appeared in the Philadelphia Journal, and George Washington was so inspired by it that he ordered his commanders to have it read to their troops. It appeared in December of 1776 in the Philadelphia Journal. That's the one that goes, these are the times that try men's souls. I read that, excuse me, I read that and I said, these people were bikers. They knew what they were doing. They were so inspired by Tom Paine's words that a lot of people whose enlistments were up renewed their enlistments. And you know, being a Continental soldier in 1776 was not exactly the best job in the world. Not even close. We had the parade permit. We followed the Columbia police down. We get into the city of Columbia's city limits, and the parade gets turned into a humongous parking lot. Every cop imaginable in the state of South Carolina was there waiting for us. Now, we have a parade permit. They brought the parade into this parking lot area. They had SLED, they had State Capitol Police, they had Columbia Police, they had the county police officers there, they had Highway Patrol, you name it, they were there. They were so inundated that a friend of mine riding a stock Goldwing was told that the reason they stopped him was for excessive noise. He looked at him, said, excessive noise? He turned the key on, redlined the thing, shut it off, and the cop said, here, get out of here. I mean, it was a madhouse. I managed to get 2 tickets that day, and it was great. But anyway, that's a whole other story. But we actually made it here to the State House. One of the first things we did was we collected money for the guys that ended up in jail. A lot of people went around the roadblocks and said, this is what there's a parade permit and a parade. You never see them do that for anybody else. Ever. But they were pissed because of what we did in October, which was basically not wear a hat. So they went ahead and tried to stick it up our gazoos. I read Tom Paine's speech that day, 200 years later, when he said, these are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will in this crisis shrink from the service of this country, but he that stands it now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman. He was talking about us. We know what a sunshine patriot is. It's the fair weather rider. If it's cloudy, they keep the bike locked up. I bet you everybody here has been caught in the rain at least one time. At least one time. Probably a lot more often than we'd like to. It was a fantastic helmet protest. Fantastic, I thought.